On this episode, Jon Self is filling in and bringing us his full review of SeaWorld's Seven Seas Food Festival. Today's February 3rd, 2026, and this is episode 843 of the Main Street Magic Podcast.
Jeremy and Rhonda are more than a little fond of Disney World, so they made this podcast to share it all with you. Reports and resorts, top 10 lists of all sorts, Main Street Magic's bringing it home for you.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Main Street Magic. I'm your host, Jeremy Stein, and as always, I'm joined by my lovely wife, Rhonda.
Hey guys!
If you want to be part of the community and join the conversation, get the latest theme park news, as well as live streams from the parks and resorts, head to Facebook and search for the Main Street Magic community and ask to join.
Make sure you check us out on the web at mainstmagic.com, as well as follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at mainstmagic, and on TikTok at MSM Podcast.
Planning a trip to Disneyland or Walt Disney World can be overwhelming and at times just downright frustrating. But don't worry, because Mouse Dining removes the frustration of booking Disney dining reservations, alerting you when they spot availability for your desired restaurant, date, meal, and time. Visit msmfriends.com to use this free service.
And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you can get brand new episodes every Tuesday and Friday.
Are you ready for your bucket list trip? Our trusted partner, MEI Travel, will handle the planning so you can focus on the memories. They offer free vacation planning services and have nearly 20 years of experience creating memorable vacations. Visit mainstmagic.com/travel for a fee-free, no-obligation quote today. So before we get started, I wanted to let you know that today's episode is a little bit different, as Jon Self himself is filling in and taking over. He was out at SeaWorld's opening weekend and media event and put together a full, honest review of the Seven Seas Food Festival, covering the food, the drinks, and what's actually worth trying. So sit back, get hungry, and let's turn it over to Jon.
Hello, this is Jon Self. Yes, you expected to hear different voices. I don't know how we're going to splice this together, so I don't know how I got introduced, but this is Jon Self, sitting at you in an undisclosed location at Walt Disney World Resort. If you somehow guess, or want to make a guess, feel free to put it in the Main Street Magic community Facebook group, and I'll tell you if you're right or wrong, or you can @ me on X or Twitter, which is Pastor Jon Self. Pastor is spelled Pastor. John is spelled Jon because H's are oo, Self, SELF, or it's a lot easier to find me on Instagram. It's jon.self.37. Those are probably the two easiest places to find me. If you're unfamiliar with who I am, if you could see the video version of this that I'm doing, I'm clad in my Black Panther attire, as I almost always are when I'm working as a freelancer in the theme parks world. I have a background that you may have some idea of what it is like if you've not heard me before on Jeremy's podcast or in other places. I, for several decades, served as a minister in several different moderate Baptist traditions. Served as international missionary, and there may, if you dig deep into Google, unfortunately it's before the YouTube world, you may even discover that maybe I had the ability to swing a racket and do some things like that. And if it sounds a bit Forrest Gump-like, just so we're clear, the strokes that were used in the Forrest Gump movie, his table tennis strokes, would not work in the way they were shown. Not that I would know, but that's a different issue. I've been asked to speak about the Seven Seas Food Festival. This past weekend, Jeremy, Rhonda, and I went to the Seven Seas Food Festival. I was there for 2 days. Opening day was Friday, January 30th. Jeremy and Rhonda joined me on the 31st, which was for the media event day. And we got kind of an idea of what the event is like. You can read about a lot of this at mainstmagic.com, by the way. I don't know if you're aware of that, mainstmagic.com. That's a place where we put a lot of information that often gets overlooked by a lot of the other news sites, because I'm not trying to undo what every other theme park news site is doing, but things that do tend to get overlooked by other sites, trying to create a place for it, because there's lots of information that people would want to have, and I want to make sure we get that. So we went to Seven Seas Food Festival. The Seven Seas Food Festival at SeaWorld is their premier event, and as such, it ran this year the longest it's ever run. If this sounds like an old Epcot festival to you, then you have got an idea what I'm talking about. It started on Friday, January 30th, and it runs all the way through May 17th. Yes, that's right. May 17th is when it runs till. So it's going to be one of those things that happens for a while. And just we kind of deal with that and go along. But the beauty of that is this year, as I'm trying to find the information at mainstmagic.com. This is the problem when you're a freelancer and you write for lots of different places. This event was going to offer 29 different marketplaces. That's what they call them. Instead of food studios like we would normally have here in the middle of the Festival of the Arts experience, they call them marketplaces. They cover all the different worlds. And just so you can get an idea in my world of what it's like to be a freelance, mainly food reporter, 2 weeks ago was basically the Festival of the Arts at Epcot. The weekend after that was the Mardi Gras celebration at Busch Gardens, Tampa Bay. This past weekend was the Seven Seas Food Festival at SeaWorld, and we're coming up on Mardi Gras celebration at Universal Orlando. So it's kind of a busy time, and then I've got a couple media invites to some things that are happening in the upcoming weeks. So it's not going to be a slow period of time by any means whatsoever. Having said that, you can get overwhelmed when you go to these food festivals. And as a result, we want to try to put some information in front of you. Jeremy and Rhonda do a great job of trying to run through all the different things that you experience at the food festivals, especially at Epcot. But they don't always get the chance to do all the other events. Now, if you want to have this in written form, if you prefer to have this in written form, probably the two easiest places to find information about things that I write about theme parks that are not for travel agency websites. So now I'm going to dance a very careful dance here. Because I write for 4 different travel agencies at the moment. None of which are the really talented, wonderful MEI Travel, which you should consult, because you can consult and help you with your Disney and your Universal and many other vacations, cruise vacations, all kinds of things. You can consult with them, and they will help you with vacation at no cost to you. And just so we're clear, if you're thinking, well, that's the way it works for every travel agency, no, it does not. I'm discovering more every day that there are travel agencies that charge fees for this and fees for that. When you book through MEI, it comes at no cost to you. How do they get paid? Well, they get paid after you stay. Basically, the commission that would have gone directly to Disney or Universal, they get that afterwards. But they're the ones who's going to be stuck on the phone for 27 hours when you want a certain thing or a booking changes or discount. So just so you're aware of that. Having said that, getting back to the main objective here, Seven Seas Food Festival, it offers lots of different things, and they've got several new concepts. They even added like a secret menu experience at their Sharks Underwater Dining, which is one of their table service restaurants. If you're unfamiliar with SeaWorld Orlando, think of it as a theme park resort, but not really a theme park resort. They have the main park, which is SeaWorld Orlando. They also have Aquatica Orlando, which is quite a good a water park. And then they also have Discovery Cove, which is like a day spa experience with swim with dolphins and all kinds of things. It's all included, and it's a wonderful experience. And if you're just coming down, and maybe it's a couple's vacation, one of those kind of things, it's pretty cost effective to book yourself one day at Discovery Cove, and then you pay a little bit more money, and you get free admission to Aquatica, free admission to SeaWorld Orlando, and free admission to Busch Gardens Tampa Bay. And at least until May 1st, I believe, there is a free shuttle that goes from Orlando to Busch Gardens, which I may know something about taking free shuttles all the way from Orlando, Kissimmee to Tampa. It's a free shuttle. It takes you right there as long as you have a ticket for the park. The Seven Seas Food Festival, it involves way more than just food. It involves concerts like you're used to at Epcot or maybe at Universal. But one of the things that makes this event very different than other events, and I mean very different than you're used to, is they use the sample lanyard thing. And I know I was joking with Jeremy and Rhonda about doing reviews about the Seven Seas Food Festival, which several of them are up at mainstmagic.com, and there's several more are coming before Mardi Gras starts this weekend, and then also switch to Mardi Gras reviews. SeaWorld has pricing, and so does Busch Gardens Tampa Bay, if you're unfamiliar with it. The pricing model is very different than used to at Disney or Universal. The pricing model at SeaWorld, basically for the festivals, is each item is quite frankly overpriced beyond belief. It could be $10.99 or $9.99 for a small dessert. Or I know I have one review of the chicken pinchos from SeaWorld Orlando from this festival that was $14.99. Now, you're not going to pay that because you're going to purchase a sampler lanyard. And for the Seven Seas event, which you can use this any day you want, you can purchase a 10 sample lanyard for $74.99. Now, it does include tax and all those kind of things. You can also purchase a 15 sample lanyard for $90, which that's going to be $6 per item. If you happen to be an annual pass holder, and by the way, several articles at mainstmagic.com about the virtues of being an annual pass holder to Busch Gardens and SeaWorld, because if you purchase the Platinum Pass, that gets you access to every Busch Gardens and SeaWorld park throughout the nation, and also an incredible amount of discounts. And in this case, it gets you 18 samples for $90, which means they were $5 each. So that item that seems really overpriced is not very overpriced at that point. So just so you get a perspective, everything is set up that way. That's the whole setup, the whole everything. Now, if you're wondering, if I didn't say it already, if you're wondering where to find content about SeaWorld, Busch Gardens, those kind of things,
making me look for you.
You will notice that you're going to find information about SeaWorld, Busch Gardens, and any of those kind of things. You will find most of the information that I write about at mainstmagic.com or at attractionsmagazine.com. We'll see an article. I usually do a best and worst article of all the items, all the new items at every festival. I'll do that again for Busch Gardens. I've done that for Festival of the Arts. If you're looking for more of an individual review type thing, you're going to be better off going to mainstmagic.com. Now, back to SeaWorld Orlando. This year, the event's much longer. It's 2 weeks longer than it's ever been. And they're trying something different with the festival experience. They're doing a rotating menu setup. So there's at 14 of the food marketplaces, they have a rotating item that'll be there right now, but then it goes away March 8th. Then it gets replaced by someone else. Then it'll go away again in the middle of March. So just so you have an idea of kind of the items, I'll just kind of scan through. You can find all of this at mainstmagic.com under SeaWorld Food. Just so you know, there's a Caribbean market where they have chicken pinchos. There's an Italian market, which Jeremy and Rhonda and I tried. And spoiler alert, though I'm pretty sure some of the food is better, what we had at this Italy market is what you would expect at an Italy market at a theme park. There's a Polynesian market where it's huli chicken, and there'll be teriyaki chicken, tuna poke bowl. There's a North Atlantic market where you can get fish and chips and something that passes a lobster roll. SeaWorld does special cupcakes for this event. I know you're rolling your eyes when you hear special cupcakes. There's a mac and cheese booth. Now, these are all coded to different areas of the world, but just so you get an idea, there's a Mediterranean market where they're building off of fries, like we had the feta fries when Jeremy and Rhonda were with me. There's the Brazilian market, which you have the Brazilian cheese bread, the churrasco steak, several stews and other things. There's an Indian market where it's got a rotation of butter chicken, tandoori chicken, and chicken tikka masala, and several things like the Asian market with many things you would expect: General Tso's, Kung Pao, sweet and sour. There's the German market with the chicken schnitzel sandwich. I believe that review is going up as I'm recording. And then there's several bratwurst things. There's a Gulf Coast market, which if you've followed the Main Street Magic community at Facebook, there's a photo of Rhonda about to try the shrimp and grits. So just so you have an idea, we can save that another time where she can talk about the shrimp and grits. But there's gumbo, jambalaya, all the things you would think of. There's a Mexican market with various versions of tacos. There's an Irish market which is doing nachos, like Guinness cheese nachos, corned beef nachos, a Reuben egg roll. And then probably the best booth of the thing, which is amazing to me every time I say this, is the Beats and Bites market, which is over by where Bayside Stadium is, which we'll talk about in a moment, and the Pipeline attraction, which is kind of the stand-up coaster. They have burgers. I had the mushroom Swiss truffle burgers. I don't believe that review is up at mainstmagic.com, but by the way, it's good. The bacon blue burger will be next in rotation, and the breakfast burger will be after that. They have a Chicago dog, which I had last year, which was the best item of the event. Now, just so you have an idea, if you've not read any of my reviews or not familiar with my content, I tend to downgrade anything that's just traditional food at a theme park. If you're a burger, you're a pizza, you're a hot dog, you're chicken tenders, you're fries, you're something that's just very standard, you're going to have to blow me away. That's all I'm going to say about the Chicago dog and this burger. Now, visualize that you get to go around, walk around the lagoon, take in all the things that are at SeaWorld. Now, SeaWorld is primarily a roller coaster park these days because they're trying to make a transition from being the aquatic park to more of a roller coaster park. They are adding they've added some indoor attractions. They have a brand new indoor attraction, SeaQuest. Legends of the Deep, that'll be coming out. It's a Vekoma dark ride. If you're not familiar with Vekoma, just so you have an idea, gives you some thoughts about what you would experience and how you would experience it and all those kind of things. It's just easier to do a festival at SeaWorld than it is at Universal, which I'll experience in a few days, and at Epcot. Epcot can be overwhelming. SeaWorld is much more relaxing, much easier, probably cost you less overall. But here's the thing. One of the things that I noticed this year that I really didn't like based on what I do for a living, I didn't like that more of the items were safer. And when I mean safe, that doesn't mean they're bad. Another review on Main SD Magic right now of a really safe item that was really, really good. The portion size was great. The flavor was great. Everything was really good. But flavor, it was safe. I'll give you a hint. It's an Indian dish that whenever you take someone who's not familiar with Indian food for the safe dish, that was it. They did a great job with that. This festival goes around, you get to take in all the things, all the sites. They have entertainment. They have lots of live music that is set up, which is not normally set up there. They have entertainers. We missed kind of some of the shows because we were doing the media event. And quite frankly, this past weekend, if you're not aware, Florida's cold, and we don't know what to do when it's cold here in Florida. So just so you have perspective about that. But we went to the media event. They gave us kind of some perspective about the food. I know that Jeremy recorded a chef demonstration of how they make the food, how they prepare the food, and all the things that go with that. So just so you have that thought in your mind that you can find that information, I'm sure, at the Main Street Magic YouTube channel at some point coming up, where you can find lots of other things about the Seven Seas Food Festivals and all kinds of other events. Now, just like the Epcot events where we have the concerts at the American Theater, for SeaWorld, they also have concerts for this event. And for SeaWorld, let me see if I can find the whole list. This will sound like kind of a merging of, Eat to the Beat, Garden Rocks kind of thing. Concerts that are coming up they have. And these are all included with admission, as you might imagine. Bow Wow, Warrant, Jefferson Starship, the Pop 200 tour, which is basically Chris Kirkpatrick and O-Town and other things, merging things together. We got Gene Simmons coming, Smash Mouth, Maddie and T. I always said wrong. Connor Price, All for One, the Beach Boys, Soulja Boy, who was really popular last year, Fits and Tantrums. They have The Fray, Uncle Cracker, Trace Atkins, and they don't close out. That's April. Boyz II Men. I'm using them closing out sooner. And then they have several other groups after that, but they have concerts that run all the way through May 16th. Now, these happen on the weekend. The park will be busier then. Also, you note, if you're familiar with the Epcot and Universal ways of doing festivals, the Seven Seas Food Festival at SeaWorld happens Thursdays through Sundays. The booths the marketplaces open up at noon, and they happen from noon on Thursdays through Sundays. So just so you have perspective about that. And if you're familiar with SeaWorld and the history of SeaWorld and its attachment to Busch Gardens and former ownership by Busch, beer and alcohol does play a large role in many of these booths. So just so that you're aware of that, there's going to be themed weekends. They've got a themed weekend for Mardi Gras that's coming up. I believe I'm going to say February 12th to about the 20th or so. Basically, those of you who know what Mardi Gras is really, and if you're also in a religious tradition that knows what Mardi Gras is, they try to kind of celebrate that. But obviously, they won't be celebrating it because they're not available to be open on Fat Tuesday. If you know, you know. There's a St. Patrick's celebration. There's a Cinco de Mayo celebration. They pull all these things together into this event. And of course, you can read about this at mainstmagic.com because, quite frankly, I'm looking at what I've written just to make sure all of that information is there. So, why should you go? One, it is a cheaper event. If you're coming in for a celebration, it's it's going to cost you less for 2 or 3 or 4 days at SeaWorld and Aquatica and maybe Discovery Cove if you throw that in, maybe take the shuttle to Busch Gardens, than it is for a Disney multi-day ticket or a Universal multi-day ticket. So that's first. 2, if you plan it correctly, and you maybe one day you use all-day dining, and all-day dining is something where literally what it says, you can dine every 90 minutes. If you've read any of my SeaWorld and Busch Gardens articles, almost always I'm using all-day dining. And all-day dining, the retail price is $60 for the day, where you get an entree and whatever side that entree comes with. So if it's a burger and it comes with fries, that's included. Those kind of things. You get an additional side or dessert, and then you get a soft drink every 90 minutes. So just so we're clear, you can find some of the partners that I work with, you can find articles of me eating from 8 a.m. in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. And yes, there's a reason why I am not at my playing weight when I was an athlete anymore. But having said that, we'll talk about that another time. Everything at the SeaWorld and Busch Gardens parks, or if you live in another area like Busch Gardens Williamsburg, or SeaWorld San Antonio, or SeaWorld San Diego, or even Sesame Street, Philadelphia, those are all set up where you're paying up front to get a huge discount on your food because they want your money up front. So just so we're clear. Now, to be fair, I've never paid $60 for all-day dining in my entire life. I think the most I've ever paid for it was $35. There's always discounts. There's always ways to get around it. And if you're an annual pass holder, there's always many advantages like that. Having said that, that's a big advantage of the SeaWorld event. And if you're going to come back many, many times, maybe you're going to come, well, I'm going to get a SeaWorld annual pass, which, by the way, would cost way less than your Disney or Universal annual pass. And I'm going to come, in February, and then we'll come back in March, and then maybe we'll come in May. Guess what? You can probably use that same 15, 18 sample lanyard at every single day of that thing that you're there. And you've already prepaid for it, and it's $5 an item. And many of these items are really shareable. I'll talk about a few of them in a moment. But just so you have an idea, this is a concert and food event. It's a big event. It's this thing for SeaWorld. That's why, everybody who's anybody in the theme park world gets invited to media events, and it can be a little bit of a chaos. But what are the things that you get, and what are the things that you can experience, and why should you go? Well, you should go because there's the rotating menus. Maybe you went one time at 14 different marketplaces. There's rotating menus. So maybe you tried the item that was there, and they'll have other items. Like, for instance, let me just pick something random here on the list, if I can do so. This is the problem with I'm recording literally sitting in a restaurant. So let me move from one section of my tablet to another section to try to give you an idea what to do. But let's say if it comes up, just trying to pick a booth at random. Let's make it the Caribbean Marketplace. Caribbean Marketplace has coconut rice and beans all the time. It has a pineapple upside down cake all the time. So it'll be there all the way through May 17th. But running from now through March 8th are the chicken pinchos, which I believe there's a view at mainstmagic.com. If there's not, it'll be one this week. Then maybe you didn't like it. You can come back and get the beef ropa vea, which will be available from basically March 12th to April 12th. And then maybe you didn't like that, but you want to try again. You can get a Jamaican beef patty, from April 16th through May 17th. So just so you understand, the festival items vary and change significantly along the way, which is a huge plus because I know Epcot does this sometimes, and Universal has done it on occasion, where you get to go to these festival items and have things rotate. Maybe you didn't like that. Maybe you did. That's the bad part. That's about my world of limited time menu items is when you really like something, it's only around for a little while, it goes away. Spoiler alert, I've already been to Gideon's today to get the Strawberry Delight, and thankful to the staff at Gideon's Bakehouse for looking out for me. I also got a Eternal Flame cookie, which is only available in February at Gideon's on the weekends. By the way, if I haven't said it 300 times already, you can read about that at mainstmagic.com. But, maybe you just want to travel around. Maybe you've got a group that, doesn't agree on food. Well, the plus at SeaWorld in many occasions, as I think I talked about in one of the videos that Jeremy records on the media day, is I literally from the one place we're standing in one place on a standard table having food, and I could point to three different marketplaces easily. There was a fourth one I could have pointed to if I made a little bit of effort. It's an easy walk. Think of it more. There are sections where you can think of it as a food court. And if you're an annual pass holder, you can also go in the annual pass lounge and hang out in there. There's a full lounge where you can hang out, sit down, enjoy maybe a non-adult beverage and sit down and enjoy yourself. It's a different experience. It's not going to be the overwhelming thing. The queues for marketplaces are not going to be as long. It's just the nature of the festival. So if you're wondering, hey, what do I do with this and what do I do with that? I don't want to have the big experience. SeaWorld does offer that to you where there's now, in fairness, let's just be honest, when the SeaWorld food is not good, it's not good. And if, spoiler alert, if you read any of my reviews about the Festival of the Arts, when it's China or Japan, I know there may be some disagreement about that, but most of those of us who do this for a living, we're not impressed this year. There'll be those. But there will be more, I'll be honest, there'll be more downs at SeaWorld because they're trying to be safer. So if you're looking for something more unique, there's going to be less of that. But when they are on point, you spent far less for something quite good, which is why you should read people like me or find someone else that you think is, knows what they're talking about this. And they'll point you in the right direction. That's why I'm doing individual reviews of of a lot of the individual items, like I did for Epcot Festival of the Arts, like I've done for Busch Gardens Mardi Gras, like I'll do for Universal Orlando's Mardi Gras that starts in a few days in SeaWorld Orlando. So you can get an idea. And remember, when I write, I try to write from the perspective of what most people think, not what I thought. What I think doesn't really matter unless we're trying to, I'm an expert in, let's say, tandoori chicken. And I'm like, that's not really authentic tandoori chicken. And then I tell you that, or those kind of things. It's about what most people will think when they try the item. And that's what we're trying to guide you. Whether you have a texture issue, whether you have a struggle, whether you miss these things or those things. That's what we're trying to do. It's so much easier at SeaWorld for you to find the item that you know is going to be a good choice for your family, for your group, and for kiddies. Now, if you have a group, let's say you have a group of 5, and 2 of them are picky eaters. 1, get them all day dining and send them for chicken fingers, pizza, and burgers. But you can also go to the festivals and do the very same thing. It's very cost effective, very easy. One of the pluses of buying a lanyard is I can buy a lanyard and hand it to my friend and they can go use it. You can share the lanyard. And so you can, go around and do whatever you need to do. It's kind of like the phenomenon that Jeremy and Ron talk about a lot, about having a Disney gift card and choosing the gift card to scan. Or in this case, you purchase a lanyard and you just go around and do the same thing. Make sure you don't lose the lanyard. You can't use DisneyGiftCard.com. And by the way, I've not listened to Jeremy and Rhonda's latest podcast about Disney gift card at the time that I am recording this. But I'm sure they said that and told you to register it and told you if you lose it, make sure you change it, move it to a different card, make sure it's a physical card, all those things. You can't do that with the lanyard. So be careful about that. But it's very easy to make that work. Now, you're thinking, hey, John, what food should I eat if I decide to go to the Seven Seas Food Festival? Well, you can go to attractionsmagazine.com. This is broken down for you, best and worst item. And all the things that are new, all the things that were good in the past and may be good in the future and those kind of things. Let me just give you a quick run through. I've already kind of spoiled this. The Mushroom Swiss Truffle Burger at the Beats and Bites Marketplace. An excellent option. It tasted far better than it should. This is last year where the Chicago hot dog was there that I thought was not going to be good. Spoiler alert. Only a few years ago was I living in Illinois, taking the train to Chicago and flying to Orlando 12, 14, 18 times a year. I know what a Chicago hot dog tastes like. So just so you get an idea. Another of the better items I've already mentioned is the butter chicken at the Indian market. They did a great job with that. The portion size is great. It's wonderful. And if you want to read more about that, you can find that at attractionsmagazine.com, or you want to wait for individual reviews that maybe I haven't gotten to yet, That'll be at mainstmagic.com. Regarding things to probably look out for if you read any of my reviews of the Festival of the Arts, this is kind of the same flu, except for this one exception. The SeaWorld Food Festival, the Irish market has not been good. They're doing nachos and they have a Reuben egg roll, which I reviewed very poorly last year for very good reasons for portion size. One of the things you want to watch at this festival, and I'm noticing at Epcot, and we're going to see at Universal upcoming weekend, portion sizes vary wildly, so be careful. One of the reasons I'm not a fan of the Mexican market at SeaWorld is the portion sizes are small. If you're using a lanyard and everything costs the same, there's something to figure when portion size. Well, that might cost more if I larger portion size. Doesn't matter with the lanyard. You spent the same amount of money, whether it's a piece of Brazilian, let's say chimichurri steak, or it's a tiny amount of what they call elotes dip with a few tortilla chips. It's going to be the same price for you with a lanyard. Now, also, if you consume alcohol, don't assume just because Pastor Jon Self is a Twitter handle that I'm opposed to that. If you consume alcohol, it's very tricky at SeaWorld. They will give you a sample size of the alcohol for your sample lanyard, but it's fairly small. You want to consider whether you might want to pay a la carte for that, because you get a much larger one for less. And if you are a SeaWorld or Busch Gardens annual pass holder, you get a discount on alcohol. So if you are a Disney World or Universal Orlando pass holder, you're now going, that'd be nice. And we've already commented on Italy, just so you have some perspective. Just to be really clear about this, the main reason to go to the festivals at SeaWorld and Busch Gardens is the crowds will be lower. They will not be the intensity of Walt Disney World. They will not be the intensity of Universal Orlando, and it makes it so much easier. Having said that, let's be clear that maybe SeaWorld and Busch Gardens are not really your thing. That's fine. That's kind of a joke I did on my friend Vacationer and More podcast. We'll call it Vacationer's podcast. For his setup, I count how many times I enter into a park, and it only counts as entering in the park if I sit down I eat something or I ride a ride. I have to do one of those two things. And we kept track, and I spent more time at Busch Gardens and SeaWorld than any other park. And the shocking part is I really didn't ride as much as you think. Now, SeaWorld and Busch Gardens, one of the big differences you want to watch out for with them is they do not have as many indoor attractions. Just like we're critical of Universal's Epic Universe, and I'm recording this on a day where the Disney earnings call, there were lots of not so vague references to, we're aware of Epic Universe, we're aware of what they're doing, we're making a lot more money anyway. So don't worry, we've made the most we've ever made at a Disney park. You can read about that at mainstmagic.com. Because, by the way, Josh tomorrow is going to be the new CEO. I don't know if you knew that was coming, but we've known that for a long time. It has not been officially announced, but we're pretty sure that's what's going to happen based on the earnings call and the things that we heard today. So just so that you're aware of that. If you're someone you're going to visit and it looks cloudy or rainy at SeaWorld or it's cold, it's not going to happen. As many people have sadly learned in the last few days, roller coasters outdoors do not run in the cold. Coaster companies that manufacture these tell them that. Tell the company, if it drops below 40 degrees, it drops below this, drops below that, then you're going to probably miss out on that, and it's going to be an issue. So that's really going to be a problem at SeaWorld. I know I've been to SeaWorld 3 times in the last 7 days covering SeaWorld, Seven Seas Food Festival, and the coasters have been closed several times because it has been much colder here in Orlando, just so that you're aware of that. It's a different thing. I know as I've compared Hollow Scream, which is the SeaWorld Orlando Busch Gardens comparative to HHN, it's a really good event that costs less and is much easier to get around. It's easier, but here's the problem. It's not up to the same quality, so you have to kind of acknowledge that. SeaWorld and Busch Gardens, if you have a regional park near you, and I'm going to find regional parks very big. We're not including the legacy Six Flags. If you have Hershey Park, you have something like Cedar Point or Kings Island near you. SeaWorld and Busch Gardens are closer to those parks, but more elevated than those parks than they are to Universal Orlando and Walt Disney World. But if you're looking for hey, I'm coming to Orlando and I want a more cost-effective way to do things, or as I'm scrolling through things at mainstmagic.com, if you've come down for a cruise, maybe it would be more cost-effective for you to go a couple days at SeaWorld. Now, anything doing with theme parks in the Florida area, you need to know one thing, very, very important thing. If you're going for one day, it's going to cost you a fortune. There are no huge discounts on one day. It's when you get to multi-day, that's when it becomes a significant thing. So just so that you're aware of that, and you're aware of that as you're planning your vacation. So maybe you're thinking, well, maybe we can't afford the full Disney vacation for a week. And quite frankly, a lot of people are saying that too. It's not your fault. It's not a criticism of you. It's just the way it is. We can't afford that right now based on circumstances. Maybe a trip down for a week involving SeaWorld. Maybe you stay at the Renaissance SeaWorld Hotel. Maybe you stay at one of those other hotels in the area and you experience that. You could go to Discovery Cove. In Discovery Cove, you are a water person, or quite frankly, you just like to eat as much food as possible because all the food is included, and you can buy an alcohol package, which is not bad either. You can swim with dolphins, you can encounter birds, you can do all kinds of things. They give you, free sunscreen, free swim gear, all the things that you need. That's a part of the SeaWorld experience. Now, there's also the SeaWorld parks that have lots of shows that are based on aquatic animals. You can interact and experience the penguins. You can interact and experience all kinds of things that you're thinking, well, I might want to do that. It would be a lot more casual, a lot more relaxed. Aquatica, the water park, is a lot more casual, a lot more relaxed. I've written a few dining reviews about Aquatica. I'm not going to tell you that it's amazing. They do have one item there that's good. But just so you have an experience. This is why people go to SeaWorld. This is why they experience this. We're not telling you that SeaWorld and Busch Gardens are better. Because if you're unaware, I keep lumping those two together. SeaWorld and Busch Gardens are sister theme parks under United Parks and Resorts. United Parks and Resorts is the parent company for all of them. So when you think of Disney Company as the parent company for Disney World and Disneyland, Tokyo Disney, and Disneyland Paris, those are all under the parent company. Which, by the way, they made an astronomical amount of money in domestic parks this year. I was shocked listening to the earnings call. This is the parent company for this group. And they have a loose connection to SeaWorld Abu Dhabi, because that was the, theme park in that area of that group that came up a little sooner. This is why you would go to the Seven Seas Food Festival, is because you would want to experience something that's more casual and something that's not as crowded and not as overwhelming. And if you're like, well, we can leave and come back, or maybe you can stretch it out in 2 or 3 days, and you might discover purchasing a fun card. I believe they call it a fun card. I would recommend you get the bronze annual pass, but because the fun card doesn't include parking, and the bronze one doesn't, maybe silver, but you'll get the idea. You could buy maybe even an annual pass for a couple $100, because my annual pass is basically $400. It includes every park and every park in the world. That might be a cheaper vacation for you. I'm not saying that that's what you should save up the money for, but if you want to make the trip, or you're coming down and you want to do these things, SeaWorld and Busch Gardens give you the opportunity. I'm sure that my friend Amy at MEI Travel could help you with that. And if she can't, she can message me and I can help you set that up. And we can do that for you, and she can act as your travel agent. Those are the kind of things that happen. This is what you want to do. Now, having said that, if you're looking for food and you want food that maybe is not being covered elsewhere, not being covered by the big sites, Manatee Magic is going to be that place for you. Writing that's why I'm doing it. Obviously, there's lots of other things. I'm on the day that Harambe Market reopened. I was joking with we'll call them cast members at Gideon's Bakehouse at Disney Springs today. I was asked to if I wanted to cover the opening day at Harambe Market, I was like, no, because the food's going to be boring and the food's not going to be exciting, and why would I want to do that? Those are the kind of things that we hear. As someone who has done some food reviews for the unofficial guide at University of Orlando, I think my name is still in the book. If Seth and Alicia have not taken it out yet, and they can if they want to, you're going to get a perspective of this is what I think most people will like. That's what I do. I have no idea how Jeremy's going to close this because we're improvising on the fly in this experience. So he's probably going to add some other information to this. Maybe he won't. But I appreciate you letting me talk. Appreciate you listening to the podcast and helping the channel grow. When you hear the words "help the channel grow," because that's how it works. When you listen, that gives Jeremy more clout on the podcast, so he can get more clout, more media clout, more exposure. When you click a blog at mainstmagic.com, that generates some revenue for the site, gives us credibility to say this many people listened, this many people did this, so that Jeremy and Rhonda can get more access to other things and not depend on the freelance blogger to help them do that. When you subscribe to the YouTube channel at Main Street Magic, you can find the information. Now, maybe some of that stuff won't be your favorite thing, but it allows the channel to do things so that it can grow and give you the information that maybe, and trust me, I work for a lot of these other sites. I mean, I'm primarily working for travel agencies right now, but I've mentioned Attractions Magazine as an example, where we cover things and we try to give you as much of an honest perspective. But sometimes that's tricky because you're at the media event, you have to show the things they want you to show. But it also gives you access that other people don't normally have access to. So just so that you're aware of, when you do that, when you click, I'm looking at Speedway Valentine's Day deals bring sweet savings on the go at mainstmagic.com. That's about the Speedway convenience stores that are at Walt Disney World. Did you know there are Speedway convenience stores at Walt Disney World? There's one near the Boardwalk Inn. There's one near Disney Springs. There's one near Magic Kingdom, the Car Care Center. That quite frankly, you get to use your same Speedway or 7-Eleven perks that you may use at home. You get to use in Walt Disney World. And saving, we cover that at mainstmagic.com, just so you have an idea. But when you click those things and you read about those things, it helps the channel grow and helps to show that you're supporting Jeremy and Rhonda with what they're trying to do and all the things that are involved. I think I've ranted as someone in the freelance world long enough for you. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Once again, you can find me on Twitter or X at Pastor Jon Self, and John is spelled Jon because H's are oo. Or you can find me on Instagram at jon.self.37. I'm in lots of different places and lots of different channels to see you have perspective. And I appreciate you listening. And I will turn this back over to Jeremy, and he can tackle all the editing. Good luck, grace, and peace to you.
And that's going to do it for today's episode. A huge thanks again to Jon for stepping in and sharing his full 7 Seas Food Festival experience. If you're planning a visit to SeaWorld, we hope this gave you some great ideas on where to eat, what to skip, and what not to miss. And don't forget to hit up Amy with MEI Travel to plan your next Orlando vacation or beyond. Thanks as always for listening. Please subscribe, and we would be so thankful if you could leave us a rating and review because it really does make the show grow. That's all we've got, and we'll see you real soon.
Jeremy and Rhonda are more than a little fond of Disney World, so they made this podcast to share it all with you. Reports and resorts, top 10 lists of all sorts, Main Street Magic's bringing it home.